Hi, Veronica. How are you?
Hello, Marvin. I'm good, thank you.
I'm pretty good. Veronica, for the people who may not already know you, could you shortly introduce yourself and give us like a short wrap up how you got into yoga?
Sure. Well, I had a totally different life. So I was into movement. I always been like a super active person. I always have this energy, right? Running around as a kid, so always like
Hmm.
getting outside, outdoor. I was really like, yeah, was kind of hard for my parents to keep me quiet, right? So I was always into movement. And I tried different things, and I was going to the gym, I did aerobics, I did like everything in the trend that was. So in my case, I explored every kind of movement. And then at some point, I was living, so I am Italian, but I was living in my case, I moved to Argentina and I lived there for 5, 6 years. And I was living in Buenos Aires, so they call it the city of the fury, la ciudad de la furia. They are always like, like, always up, always doing, always doing. And so I needed to find an activity that calmed me down, right? And so I started doing yoga, and I loved it. I loved it since the beginning. I was like super. I was feeling so good after the class. I was like I kind of
Hmm.
walking home and floating home. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So that is how I started practicing. And I went in and off, like usual. Like I wasn't a yoga teacher. I mean, that came after. So I had like a job, and when I had time, I was going to classes. And then my life went on, and there was like this really rough time at some point where I was feeling lost, weak, and I had to face some important decision in my life, and I have to move back to Italy. It wasn't a choice. I mean, it's a choice that I did, but I wasn't so happy to be back, let's say. So I was kind of feeling stuck. And so I decided to, or naturally, like it's not even, I don't know if it was like really a decision. I just started to practice more and more and
Sometimes it
more,
comes more to you than you have really to.
right? And going for a run and doing functional training, and everything was bringing me like so much joy and peace and balance, and was like the only space where I felt that I was kind of in control of my emotion, I was feeling, because I was like, all the rest of my life was a mess, like around. It was like, yeah, we go through messy moments in our life.
For sure.
And so it becomes really a huge part in my life. And it was like, okay, this is what something that I really love. And a friend of mine actually told me, hey, did you notice that you are the one that it's always organizing like the group of friends? Like I had a chat with my girlfriends, right? And it was like, let's go for a run. Let's go do
Hmm.
this. Let's go do that, right? And so my friend was saying, did you notice that you're always the one like creating the space for doing something, right? Movement related. And she was like, why don't you consider the possibility of making it your job? Because you're clearly really passionate about that. And I was like, you know
Hmm.
what? Like, you're right. So that is how I started, and how I started the process of becoming a teacher, right? And so I did the first teacher training. I loved it. I started teaching, and I had another job at the time also. And then I did the second teacher training, and I love it even more. And I volunteer in a yoga school for 3 months. So really like being there. That was amazing because I had all these teachers around, and
Hmm.
so like practicing and talking, 24 hours about yoga movement. And after that experience, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I said, okay, let's uh let's try the full time let's try the full time yoga teacher job.
Hmm.
And here we are. Yeah, so like 7 years later, here I am. Yes.
Not that bad. Thank you for sharing this. I, I've always found it super interesting how people really get into this. And even what you mentioned that it had this kind of natural flow towards you. Because I think even a lot of people can relate to this point where you're like an active person. And sometimes, it's so example for me, it's always super hard to sit still and meditate and just find peace, even like out of this part of yoga in your day-to-day life, but to see that you can use that as well and find like a kind of balance or the tools you need is like also really really amazing.
Yes.
When you like started out with yoga, what kind of style of yoga did you do? Because nowadays for people who have maybe seen your Instagram, you have like a really active, really a lot of like mobility and like
Yes.
a different style.
So when I first started as a student, I started doing hatha yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I actually teach and I enjoy many kinds of yoga. It's like I know that from my Instagram profile, kind of like this picture of strength and kind of acrobatic things, and that it's true. It's true. I do also that, and I enjoy all the strong and acrobatic and skillful things because I love challenges. Basically, like I always need a challenge,
It
right? And say, okay, I can reach that. And but I also enjoy super slow and I teach and I enjoy teaching like gentle because it's two faces of the same medal, and it comes also back to what you were saying about the difficulty of sitting down in stillness and and just like
mm-hmm.
calming down the body. And depending on the person, for people that are very active like me and maybe like you, I can imagine. So the hard time, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's staying
True.
it's quieting the body, and then from there, like usually when you are a super active person, in the moment that you stop, these start, right? It's like
The energy flows differently, right? Yeah.
exactly. But then it's a practice also, and I think it comes with time. I remember at the beginning, I was so from Ata, then I I I was also like I was not only practicing yoga. Like many people ask me, but okay, you only practice yoga? Like no, I practice every kind of movement. I love to move my body in all its forms possible. I really enjoy to explore possibilities, and so like yeah, my personal training it's variety. It's like there is a lot of things. Like I practice with calisthenics. Now I'm doing Muay Thai and yeah,
Oh, yeah. This is really a
play,
variety,
yeah,
big
playing
spectrum.
playing beach volley, hiking, right? It's like I'm always up to do something. It's like want to do something? Yes, let's do it. And but at the beginning, so from Hatha, then I flowed into Vinyasa because I like the pace of the classes. And I remember at the beginning I wasn't so much meditating actually. I was using movement as meditation. Also because there is this stereotype that meditation has to be seated, crisscross leg, and there. Like actually there are many kinds of meditation, and they work differently. So each one should find what works better for them, and this can change along your life, right? It's not that we are always the same.
Absolutely.
But but at the beginning, my meditation was into the movement. So I was focusing so much on the physical sensation on my body that I was entering into a flow state, right? Because at the end, the point is kind of shutting down the analytical mind and managing to enter a little bit deeper within ourselves. And so that was the door that allows me to enter into then after like a more classic meditation styles. So at the beginning was through movement, and I also think that I had to reconnect with my body. So I was, as I told you, I was like in this moment of my life where like everything was spinning around me, and I felt that I didn't have any control. And the practice, what allowed me to do is to reconnect with myself and reconnecting through the body, because like our deepest self, the door to our deepest self is our body. It's like feeling ourselves within. And then from there, you can start to build the connection with your inner landscape. But it's deeply connected with the physical body. Our greater self, our spiritual, it's not somewhere there. It's here, right? So this is the
This
door.
this is such an important point, because I think, actually, even like a lot of you people practicing yoga miss out on this point, that they are like, even like already in this state of, ah, yeah, why should I have to do like the asana practice? Because it's all about like samadhi and like meditation. Yeah, and these are all states which are maybe reachable, but I think, like you said, the important thing is that our body is the tool we navigate through this experience. So we have to find everything in here, right?
Yes,
So it makes
absolutely.
absolutely sense.
Yes. So that was the door that allowed me to enter. And at the beginning, kind of I had to move to enter into that state because I needed that middle point of having the body. So
Hmm.
feeling myself in the body, right?
Yeah.
And then the practice changed because I changed, because we always changing. So I think I can say like I evolved, right? I stepped into another phase where my physical practice gave me all what I could find in terms of connection with myself. I still enjoy moving. I super love it, moving, but I arrived to a point that I kind of needed something else because I saturated the tool, because everything is a tool. It's not a final goal. It's a tool. So at some point you're using the tool, you're using the tool, you're using the tool, and it's giving to you, right? It's like, wow, 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 I have all these. At some point you say, okay, I used these in all the way that I could use it. And now I'm ready to another step, right?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I started to go into breath work, meditation, to find that bliss, right? That I was first finding at the beginning in the movement. And then I say,
Hmm.
okay, now I'm ready to open another door. And the physical practice gave me this beautiful gift of connecting within. And so once I was able to connect with my body without having to move, because I had that path, I found that path, I recognize that path, I know how to walk it, I don't actually have to move to find that path. And now, so I'm ready to open another door, and so on. Like this is a this is a lifelong journey.
For
Now-
sure.
So now sorry, the headphone.
All good.
So yeah, like or they are too big or my ear are too small, like one of the two.
Yeah, always.
So my practice, my personal practice changed. And what I used to do at the beginning now is changed. And now I search for other tools so that allows me to keep going, to keep growing or to keep going deeper, right? And that at some point I was ready. I was ready for the more classic way of meditation, just sitting still and observing. And I guess I was able to do that because I was able to know where to look.
You already had like a kind of direction out of the movement practice, that you knew what to move into.
Yes, yes. Because there are like two, if we talk about meditation, it's also like I love to meditate, and meditation can be, well, everything can be the great escape or the big found, actually, because we can use meditation to to just escape from a point, right?
Hmm.
Okay, I calm my mind and I stay here for 15 minutes, and I find a place of peace, and I did that, right? Because there was like a moment some years ago that I was really anxious, extremely anxious. So I was finding in meditation the peace. And at the beginning, I used that. And I think this is necessary steps. I mean, we need to walk through a path, right? And we have different pace, different, speed. We are like, we always have to have ourselves as a reference and not someone else. But at the beginning, I was using meditation to just shut me down, right? I was like, I'm so anxious all the time that at least in these 20 minutes, I find peace. and my mind stops. And that was the beginning. But I wasn't actually facing what was causing me the anxious, right? So it was beautiful because I was finding this moment of peace, and I was meditating morning, afternoon, evening, right? I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, please shut me down." But then eventually I had to really say, okay, let's face what it's making me anxious. And so finding other tools that helped me to kind of make it arise, what was deep, 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 hidden deep inside myself. So I had to take out all that anxiety, shadow, conditioning, limiting belief, a lot of pain of past traumas that were all like stuffed down super deep, super deep, super deep, and was arising. And that was all the anxiety all the time. And I could find that moment of peace with meditation. But the path to actually healing all that was okay. Let's start to not just find the peace, but no, let's face the mess.
I think this is like a super, super important point to make actually, because what you describe is something I think is like even in nowadays society, like super, super present, that we are like having a lot of stuff going on under the surface, but we don't actually face what's really down there, right? Most of the time it's more about like we're living in a society which is like dopamine driven, and it's just about like, okay, giving this and this and this. And everything is about like the optics, and outside you have to be always strong, and your life has to look beautiful on Instagram and all the social media to all your friends. And I see a lot that actually people coming to yoga classes, and I think you had the experience for sure as well, that people come and maybe do their yoga class or their meditation, for example, like once a week, once a day, but they are just like using it as a kind of escape tool again. You know, they try to like go away from life, from this experience, and like try to find this inner peace, but it's it's a tricky path because you can't really hold on to that, and we all have to face our deepest side at some point because we live in this society where we have to interact with other people.
Well, potentially we can go on without facing ourselves for our life.
We can try at
It's
least.
it's possible. I mean, there are a lot of distraction available, so if you want, you can go on and live all your life in autopilot. But I mean, we have this possibility of being here on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and we have this possibility of checking within and saying, okay, well, let's see, let's see what I can do to better know myself and understand myself better, because this is all comes to really understand yourself better. It's not about seeking for perfection and like, checking, okay, meditation, check, yoga, check, journaling, check, right?
The typical morning routine is done, yeah, and half day is over.
It's not about the perfection. It's about raising your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And so the practice, and it's a practice. I mean, we are not perfect, and we keep making mistakes, and because the point is the journey, right? That's the point where we say to raise awareness and become every day more aware of ourselves. So the point is not checking things, but the point is learning how to be aware of ourselves and the situation, learning how to be present all the time. I think that is the practice, and
Yeah,
it's hard. I mean, it's not that I'm
like
always present, but catching yourself, catching patterns, catching triggers, catching automatic behavior, right?
mhm,
And so, like, improve ourselves by knowing ourselves better, like
mhm,
knowing that it's a balance. So it's true, and I believe that we are enough the way we are, and we are already beautiful the way we are. So it's not that I need to be better because I'm not good now. But there is also the need to know that you still have layers to peel.
Yeah, I think you said it good in the beginning that you have to evolve, like really, like, putting one layer beside the other. I think a lot of people still have this up thinking that in spirituality as well, and in all of this mindfulness movement which is going on, that people still have this belief that they can reach a certain point or they have to reach to this certain level and then everything will be good, right? So
But no, I
probably.
thought my personal experience, I mean, if you don't do the work, things will repeat in your life, right? I would say, like the lesson will repeat till you decide to face it and learn what you have to learn. And I can talk by personal experience that the lesson will come back increasing intensity, right? It's like, whoa, more intense, like time to wake up.
Yeah.
And there is like, because this is super interesting, I think, and I'm guilty of saying that. It's like it's not that I'm here like, but the sentence. It's like, well, it's the universe that is bringing you the challenge, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So if every time that something that I'm not happy or pleasant with happen in my life, and I tell myself, yes, well, it is what it is. It was the universe bringing this, right? So the responsibility, it's never mine. It's always like something that it's happening. But when it's happening something good, it's because it's me, right? So it's me that I'm manifesting something good, right?
Yeah.
So also in the situation that are not so pleasant, and they are challenging in our life, yes, that it's a lesson that it's arriving, but maybe it's arriving because it's you. It's you that you are putting in the same pattern. It's you that you are not aware or something such yourself. It's you that you have some blind spot that we all have, right?
For
And
sure.
so maybe you can check at that and use that situation to learn something more about you, and also facing the fact that maybe you don't like yourself so much in that situation, right? We all have
Hmm.
like things of ourselves that we try to avoid. And it's I find super useful in this process that I'm walking, right? To listen to people that they know me. So people that I know that they know me, they love me. And so if they tell me something, it's for my best. And I ask to my friends to tell me, please tell me when I'm wrong. Please tell me, because sometimes you have blind spot, right? And you don't see
Yeah.
yourself. And it's easier for someone else to say, hey, check this, because it seems that, but if I let my ego say, no, 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 that's not true, right? So it's taking out the ego and say, okay, I accept a critique, let's call it, or more than a critique, a checking point, right? And I know
Hmm.
that comes from a place of love. And I try to take my ego down and say, okay, let's listen and let's see, okay, Veronica, could you have done better? And it's not about, like,
Always
say
being perfect.
bad excited. It's not
Yeah.
about being perfect. It's not about because at the end, yeah, we all do mistakes. We are all humans, right? And it's the point. We learn through the mistakes. But we learn through the mistakes if we use the mistakes to actually know ourselves better and say, okay, this situation allowed me to see a part of myself that I wasn't seeing yet. And I face it and I observe it and I say, okay, next time I can maybe put a pause, a longer pause before the reaction, and coming out from a place of authenticity instead of the reaction, right?
Hmm.
And that many times means that you have to kind of let your proud a little bit aside, right? And say,
Hmm.
okay, yes.
Yeah, I think this is like, to get to this point, sounds like you're contemplating like a lot about this kind of thoughts, how this works out for you. And I think evenly one of my teachers just recently said, you're always both. You're always like, this spiritual being who knows everything and who is already perfect, but you're always as well like a 3-year old. And in some situations, it's most like you described, like it's the ego, and it's sometimes for us so hard to check in with ourselves and to say, okay, could I have done better? Why is this coming, and not just like putting it away, that's because the stars are in this direction today, or like because my family, or because of my background, or because of this, right? Like having this self-awareness, and evenly this kind of respecting that this feeling is there and that we have to take authority about that, can be, I think, really, really hard. So how did like you kind of practice? You already said your practice changed over the years. How did your practice like brought you to this point? Was it like from the beginning that you had this more or less clear intention in practicing, or does it just evolve how it comes now?
No, it definitely evolved. So at the beginning, I was very physical in my practice. I'm still very physical in my practice. I just like find also other point of connection. But at the beginning, I was extremely physical. That was my entering point. And I remember when I started as a yoga teacher, I was actually focused only on the physical practice. I had I had like my spiritual practice and my connection with myself. But as a teacher, I was stepping into the mat just like, like this is a physical practice. What you
Mm-hmm.
find within it, and I still believe that it's like I create the space. I can't give answers to people. It's like because I cannot know what is happening in someone else. So I can offer a space, I can offer some prompt, right? But then it's up to the person to look within and to find what it is inside and their own answers. But yeah, I was like, no, let's not even talk about that. Just be do asanas, right? And then as I evolved in this, and as I found this new point of connection, and as I found these other tools that really helped me to overcome and to face deeper things in my history, right? So I started breath work, I started meditation, and then as I loved it so much, I get certified in that, and now I offer also that, and I love it, and now I offer like a hypnotic meditation. It's like I remember years ago it was something that I couldn't stand, right? Oh my God, are you sitting there and there is someone guiding you to these fantasy words because you
Mm.
use the language of the subconscious, right? So it's like it's this, and you go into the sea and you go down and you find a cave and you enter in. There are all metaphors to work with your subconscious because it doesn't speak the language of our analytical mind. So you have to talk the language of the dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, I was like, oh, these are the crazy people, right? It's like what they are doing. And now I enjoy it so much, and it's really useful and helpful and beautiful and fun, right? It's like getting into
That
this
sounds
dream
nice. Yeah.
world. Yes. And so as I evolved, also my practice evolved, my teaching evolved. I think I had to pass it first through myself and experiencing it and integrating it within myself before being able to present it to other people, right?
I think this is like super interesting. Let's go a bit into that, because I think even this transition from like a dedicated practitioner to like teaching yoga, and then really like getting to this point. I mean, everybody started out as a yoga teacher, but getting to this point of where you're really like find what you want to teach, and like you described, really are able to hold the space in this kind of direction. I think that's like for a lot of people still a kind of, obviously a journey, but as well like a kind of, obstacle on their way, that they have not like a right direction. When you made the decision to, as your friend told you, okay, you can hold space, so maybe you should do this for profession. But when you started out as like teaching yoga, what do you think is, or what are important things, what gave teaching as well like to your spiritual practice or to your asana practice?
I didn't understand the question, sorry.
So when always think like that as well, the teaching and this holding of space can give you something as well, like to your practice. Like, did
Yeah.
your practice added up to that? So it was like on both sides that you grow personally, but as well your teaching evolved and your teaching evolved, so you grow personally as well.
Yes. Well, when you teach, and in general, I am a teacher. So I was teaching other things. Like I am a serial teacher, right? It's like my job career, I teach, I taught Italian as a second language. I worked years when I was in Argentina, I was working in a foundation, in a NGO, and we were teaching photography to teenager and children that lives in social risk. So I always use teaching. I don't know. I'm a teacher. I like to share knowledge, right? I remember like when I did when you do the teacher training and you teach to the group, right? There is a moment that you stand up and you
Have
teach.
to teach.
And I remember the teacher asked me, "Have you already taught yoga?" And I was like, "No, have you already taught?" And I was like, "Not yoga, but I already taught." Like I already had that teacher. You arrive and you have to like
Hmm.
talk like in a way because you have to
Of
engage
course.
people. Of course, you have to lead, right? So you have to be there. You have to stand there. And the teacher job in general, you always receive so much from the students, and many times it's more what you receive than what you give if you're really present there. Being a yoga teacher is a process, of course, and to be a teacher you have to teach. It's like this
Hmm.
is something that it's an action, so you can't be a teacher if you don't teach. So you have to go there and give your best, and when you give it from your heart, like people receive that. This is beautiful, as not everyone will like your class, but
That's a different point.
but people can feel that you're there, right? And you're transmitting this passion. And as you start to teach, you start to face different situation, different people, different bodies, different condition. You start to see what they find in the practice, and it's beautiful, and say, wow, like you find relief from pain. You find relief from like a situation like anxiety, depression, or just a moment of like
Feeling stuck.
messy,
Yeah.
exactly, stuck. And when people share with you all these, and it's like, wow, what an honor and what a responsibility also being there for
Hmm.
them. But at the end, what you're doing is holding the space. Again, it's like I do my best to hold a space that feels safe. So also physically, like I teach asana practice. So okay, let's explore our body, but in a way that you feel safe to move. And but giving them, like, they lead their process, right? It's them there. It's like it's empowering them within, okay, this is what happened, this is how you, like, I always invite them to observe what happened, right? And say, this is yours, this is not mine, this is you. I'm just here and I'm just giving you the space, but what all the things that you feel within you, they are yours, they are not mine. You are empowered to replicate all these without me, because all the power is in you. I'm just an instrument that allows you to feel all these kind of things. And these evolve with teaching, because I remember when I start teaching, of course, like, I mean, we evolved in all the profession, right? And
Everybody does. Yeah.
and step by step, you learn more, right? You see, and you do the research. So the first time that you have a student that has some kind of injury, right? Okay, you say, okay, look, I don't know, I will research. And then you do your research, and then you experiment with them and say, okay, does it feel good? Does it feel not? And you learn. And as you give them, you also learn as a teacher. And then there are situations that happens in class, right? And the first time that you
All of us have been there, and this is, yeah.
right, it's like, oh my God, what I'm doing here. Not even like funny things, right? So the first time that someone answered the phone in a class, it's like
Really?
how
Okay, I haven't had that one.
how right? It's like how I want to step into this, right? It's as a teacher, right? How I want to manage this situation,
Wow.
and to be a respect, like, I mean, to to hold the space for the others because you are responsible for them, right? Or like all these kind of things also, because it's not just about it's everything. I remember, like, funny story. I was working in a surf house, and the shala, I don't know, they did some renewal in the shala, I don't know. So that day it was smelling really bad and kind of smoky because they were doing something in the floor, with all the machine. So I was like, well, okay, let's do the class outward, right? Like, you always have to, like, yeah, I have a great solution here, right?
Even if
Yeah,
you don't have, just enough.
exactly. It's like, you put up your best smile and you say, okay, let's find a solution quickly because we have to lead the
Hmm.
class now. And I have 10 people that wants to practice yoga, and suddenly the shala, it's not ready. It should be ready, but it's not. And well, I have to put up a class in 5 minutes. Like, let's do it. So let's go to the garden. And so let's place all the mats in the garden, right? Let's prepare. Let's start to do yoga in the garden. And the sprinkle starts. And like, and
Wow. Wow. Like the perfect day for every yoga teacher is like on point.
oh my God, what I'm doing here. Like, and your mind is like racing, and it's like, what I'm doing, what I'm doing, what I'm doing. And so you find, and you say, okay, let's improvise with that. Let's use the sprinkles to make something fun. And okay, let's boom. And you have to be ready for everything that happens, right? Well, so this is a little bit hardcore situation that I'm telling. Not always like this, but it happens. And so also there is this problem solving and this ability of okay, like this is like for the next hour and a half, I am the one that everyone is looking at and says, okay, what do we do, right?
Sure,
And
but I think these are even like a leap over to that are like a lot of so important, like, not just like abilities, but as well tasks. Yoga teacher, or what defines like a really good yoga teacher from like a basic yoga teacher, I think. Like being able to be that spontaneous, being aware of the space you're holding for everyone. And I think that's like something, a lot of people can, note down for themselves, like for the next teaching hours or for the next practice. Okay, how do I really like handle situations which are maybe, because it's life. Again, this is actually what yoga is preparing us for, right? It's like everybody can be calm and easefully when life is easy and everything flows good and you're like sitting in Brazil and on the beach, everything is nice. But sometimes life is not like this and this
yeah,
experience, and sometimes the sprinkler goes on and you have to find a solution for that. I think it's even
yeah,
like more related to the actual yoga practice.
yes. And knowing that, I mean, there are things that are out of our control, right?
Yeah.
So but still, you can find a solution. And those being like super, like, I mean, you're just there doing your best. And when you're doing your best, that it's already enough. I always say that if you're doing your best, that it's already enough. That's what you can do, actually, because all the rest is out of control.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is things that you learn on the go, right? And
Yeah, you can't
yeah,
learn this from the books or from a teacher training. This won't
no,
happen there.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
That's so
yes.
great.
I've been teaching when I travel teaching, so I teaching in different places, situation, right? When you travel
Hmm.
teaching, you never know what you're going to find as a shell, as a space, as as props
Yeah.
that you have. So you have to really improvise with what you have, and improvise with the weather. Now I'm based in Costa Rica, so during rainy season, here, the majority of the shala are open space because it's always hot, so you don't need
Yeah.
walls. So they're open space. That means that when it rains in, because if it rains diagonal and it's rain hard, it's rain in. So you arrive in the morning and the shala is half flooded, and there is not so much that you can do. It's like, and this is a lesson. This is a beautiful lesson for the students, and this is always something that when this situation happens, it's like, I'm actually, okay, let's use it to find the lesson that it's beyond the physical practice. Okay, you came here thinking that you were going to have the classical traditional yoga class, and look at the weather, something that you can control. Suddenly, there is water everywhere, right? Well, this is a great lesson. We can't
I
control
love this.
everything.
Yeah, that's a great point.
we can't control everything, but I'm still here. Like, we are still having the lesson. Like, don't worry. We just have to reframe it
Mm-hmm.
and find a way to still doing it. It's this is the yoga. It's not the asana. This is the
Yeah.
yoga, right? Or starting shavasana, and there is the neighbor that decided to cut the grass during that moment, right? And so with all the noise, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes you work in studios in a city where they are placed close by to pubs and things. Like, I mean, you have to come out with solution.
Yeah.
And this is the great lesson for people, and saying, look, you can still decide what you want to do with the situation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you will let the situation like just decide for you, or you want to decide what you want to do with the situation. And this is the lesson, actually.
This is actually, I think, like a pretty good lesson, and even like for practitioners as well as yoga teachers who maybe sometimes, I mean, everybody can be overwhelmed from situations like this, right? It's just like life, but it's so nice to see that with enough, like, cultivating your own practice and like in any kind of way, having this connection to yourself that you always can like get back to your normal situation. This is how life is. We have to deal with it. Let's go for that. And to find the lesson in this, I think is even like much more important than like having always like the best possible outcome.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for all of this. If people would like to get into contact with you or would like to like take part of your classes or would like to learn something from you, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Sure. Well, the best way it's through Instagram. I'm wonder.yogi on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. It's with my name, Veronica Pancheri. But if you go through Instagram, you can find then my
I
YouTube
will
channel,
link
of
this
course.
below in the description for sure.
Okay, perfect. Yes. And
All
well,
right.
yes, I'm also on TikTok. It's all wonder.yogi or Veronica Pancheri. It's like one of the two. And you can
One
find me.
of both. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon.
Thank
Bye
you. Thank
bye.
you. Ciao.